The USS Victory floated in the darkness of space, its metal hull reflecting the distant stars. Captain Jack Harrison walked across the command deck, his boots making soft sounds on the floor. He stopped in front of the main screen, watching as several alien ships moved gracefully through the void. "They're here, Captain," said Commander Ryan Torres, standing beside him. "The Galactic Council representatives are ready to inspect our ship." Jack nodded. He straightened his uniform and took a deep breath. This was the moment Earth had been waiting for, their chance to show the galaxy what humans could build. The main screen flickered, and suddenly the bridge filled with holographic images of aliens. There was Ambassador Zixtar from the water, world of Aquilon, his octopus-like body floating in a bubble of liquid. Next to him stood the crystalline form of Representative Kretak, whose body sparkled like diamonds. 3 more aliens appeared, each stranger than the last. "Welcome aboard the USS Victory," Jack said, trying to keep his voice steady. "Earth's first contribution to the Galactic Alliance fleet." The aliens looked around the bridge. Their eyes, or what passed for eyes, moved over every surface, every control panel, every piece of equipment. Ambassador Zixtar's tentacles rippled. It took Jack a moment to realize the alien was laughing. This is your warship?" the ambassador asked, his voice gurgling through the translator. "This primitive construct is what Earth offers to defend against the Zolonian Empire?" Dr. Lisa Morgan stepped forward from her science station. She was a small woman with short brown hair and sharp eyes. "The Victory represents humanity's best efforts to adapt galactic technology to our own systems," she said. "We've incorporated?" Interrupted Representative Kretak, his crystalline body chiming with amusement. "You mean you've taken our discarded equipment and stuck it together with... What is that substance?" He pointed a glowing finger at the wall. "That's reinforced steel plating," answered Chief Engineer Mike Davis, who had just entered the bridge. His hands were stained with grease, and he wiped them on his already dirty uniform. "With a polymer coating for..." The aliens burst into laughter. The sound filled the bridge, gurgling, chiming, whistling, and buzzing all at once. "Steel!" exclaimed another representative, a gaseous being whose form shifted and swirled. "They still use metal. How quaint!" Jack felt his face grow hot. He looked at his crew and saw the same frustration in their eyes. Lieutenant Sam Peterson sat at the communications console, his hands tight on the controls. Lieutenant Commander Alice Brown stood at her station, her lips pressed into a thin line. "Our scans are complete," said Ambassador Zixtar, his tentacles waving dismissively. "This vessel, it's like a child's toy compared to real warships. Your weapons are generations behind ours. Your shields can barely stop asteroid debris. And your engines." He paused, his large eyes focusing on Mike Davis. "Do you truly still use fusion power?" "Fusion power is reliable," Mike said defensively. "And I've made modifications that increase output by 30%. The aliens laughed. Again, 30% of nothing is still nothing, said Kretak. "The Zolonian Empire has dreadnoughts the size of your moon. Their weapons can crack planets in half, and you bring us this... He searched for the right word. "This joke." Jack stepped forward. "The Victory may not look like much, but... Captain..." "Harrison?" interrupted Zixtar. "We appreciate Earth's enthusiasm, but perhaps your species should focus on what you do best. Mining, perhaps, or entertainment. Your movies are quite popular in some sectors." "We're fighters," Jack said firmly. "Humans have been warriors throughout our history. Warriors with sticks and stones," said the gaseous alien. "This is not your ancient battlefields. This is space warfare. You need technology you won't develop for another 1,000 years." Ryan Torres moved closer to Jack. "Sir," he whispered, "they're not even trying to hide their contempt." Jack nodded slightly. He'd noticed. The aliens weren't just dismissing Earth's ship, they were enjoying it. "Look at their control systems," said another alien, pointing at the bridge stations. "They still use manual controls, physical buttons and screens. Haven't they heard of neural interfaces?" "Our manual systems are less vulnerable to interference," Lisa said. "They can't be hacked or disrupted by..." "Excuses," said Kretok, waving a crystalline hand. Face the truth, humans. You're out of your depth. When the Zolonian Empire attacks, real warships will handle the fighting. Your vessel can, I don't know, carry supplies? Yes, that would be useful. A cargo ship. The other aliens murmured. Agreement. Jack saw his crew's faces darken with anger and shame. Pete, he said quietly to his weapons officer, Lieutenant Pete Johnson. Show them our main guns. Pete's fingers moved over his console. On the main screen, an image appeared showing the Victory's primary weapons array. The aliens looked at it for a moment. Then the laughter started again, louder than before. Rail guns, gasped Zixtar. You're still using projectile weapons? What's next? Will you throw rocks at the enemy? Rail guns are effective against, Pete began, against targets that sit still and wait to be hit, finished the gaseous alien. The Zolonians move at near light speed. Your projectiles would take minutes to reach them. They'll be in a different star system by then. Sam Peterson looked up from his communications console. Captain, I'm picking up chatter from their ships. They're taking bets. Bets? Jack asked. Sam's face reddened. On how many seconds will last in real combat? The bridge fell silent except for the aliens' continuing laughter. The current favorite is 12 seconds, added Sam quietly. Jack looked around at his crew. He saw hurt pride, anger, and determination in their faces. These were good people, the best Earth had to offer. They'd worked for months to build this ship, to learn alien technology, to prepare for the coming war. And now they were being laughed at. Ambassador Zixtar, Jack said, his voice cutting through the laughter. I understand our ship doesn't meet your standards, but we're here to fight. We're here to defend Earth and the Alliance. Defend? Zixtar's tentacles stopped moving. Captain, you don't seem to understand. The Zolonian Empire has conquered 1,000 worlds. They've destroyed civilizations that were traveling the stars when your ancestors were learning to make fire. What can one primitive ship do against such power? We'll find a way, Jack said simply. This caused fresh laughter from the aliens. Humans and their optimism, said Kretok. It's almost charming. Very well, Captain. Your ship will be registered as part of the Alliance fleet. You'll be assigned to, let me see. Yes. Rearguard duty. Far behind the real warships. Try not to shoot any of our ships by accident with your ancient weapons. The holographic images began to fade. Oh, and Captain? Added Zixtar as his image flickered. When the fighting starts, perhaps you should focus on evacuating. Your ship might make a decent refugee transport. The images vanished, leaving the bridge in sudden quiet. Jack stood still for a moment, his hands clenched at his sides. Then he turned to face his crew. Well, he said, forcing a smile. That went well. Nobody laughed. They're right, aren't they? Said Alice Brown. Our ship is a joke compared to theirs. Our technology is primitive, admitted Lisa. I've studied their systems. They use quantum entanglement for communications, dark energy for propulsion, and weapons based on principles we barely understand. So we're supposed to just give up? Asked Pete, his voice sharp with anger. Let them laugh at us while the Zolonians destroy Earth? No, said Jack firmly. We're not giving up. Yes, our technology is behind theirs. Yes, our ship looks primitive. But you know what? Humans have always been outnumbered, outgunned, and out-teched. And we've always found a way to win. How? Asked Mike Davis. How do we fight an enemy that's centuries ahead of us? Jack looked at each member of his crew. By being human. By being creative. By finding solutions they've never thought of. The aliens have had space travel for millennia. They're set in their ways. They think there's only one way to fight a space battle. Maybe they're wrong. Ryan Torres straightened his shoulders. What are your orders, Captain? First, we're going to study everything about their technology. Lisa, I want you to analyze every scan we took of their ships. Find their weak points. Yes, sir. Lisa nodded. Mike, keep working on those engine modifications. If you can squeeze out another 10%, I'll get you 50%, Mike said with determination. Pete, run combat drills. I want our weapons, Crew's sharp, and Sam, sir? Monitor all communications. I want to know everything about how the Zilonians fight. Their tactics, their strategies, their weaknesses. You think we can really make a difference? Asked Alice. Jack looked back at the main screen at the stars beyond. Somewhere out there, the Zilonian Empire was preparing to attack. Somewhere out there, the fate of Earth hung in the balance. I don't think we can make a difference, he said quietly. I know we can. Because that's what humans do. We adapt. We improvise. We overcome. He turned back to his crew. They want to laugh at us? Fine. Let them laugh. But when the Zilonians come, when the real fighting starts, we'll show them what humanity is made of. The crew nodded, their spirits lifting, slightly. Besides, Jack added with a small grin, I've always liked being the underdog. It makes winning that much sweeter. 3 days passed quickly. The Victory maintained its position at the edge of Alliance space, running drills and preparing for battle. The crew worked without rest, pushing themselves and their ship to the limit. Jack stood on the bridge, watching the tactical display. Dozens of Alliance ships surrounded them, sleek Altarian destroyers, massive Vegan battlecruisers, and the pride of the fleet, the Proximan dreadnoughts. Still nothing from our long-range sensors, reported Sam Peterson. No sign of the Zilonian fleet. They'll come, Jack said quietly. Keep scanning. Dr. Lisa Morgan looked up from her science station. Captain, I've finished analyzing the Alliance ship's shield frequencies. Their technology is incredible, but I've noticed something interesting. What is it? All their shields operate on the same basic principle, quantum field manipulation. It's very effective, but if someone found a way to disrupt the quantum field itself, they'd all be vulnerable. Finished Jack. Good work. Keep digging. Suddenly, alarms screamed across the bridge. Contact, shouted Sam. Multiple hyperspace signatures detected. They're coming out of jump, right on top of us. The space in front of the Alliance fleet rippled and tore. Massive ships emerged from hyperspace, each one dark and menacing. The Zilonian Empire had arrived. By God, whispered Ryan Torres. Look at the size of them. The Zilonian dreadnoughts were enormous, each one dwarfing the largest Alliance ships. Their hulls were black as space itself, covered in strange, angular weapons. At the center of their fleet was a ship even larger than the rest, the Decimator, the Empire's flagship. Admiral Kate Sullivan's voice came through the communication system. All Alliance vessels, this is command. Engage at maximum range. Use formation Delta 7. Earth vessel Victory, maintain rearguard position and stay clear of the combat zone. Jack's jaw tightened. Even now, they were being pushed aside. Sir, said Pete Johnson from Weapons, should I power up our railguns? Not yet. Let's see how this plays out. The Alliance fleet opened fire. Beams of energy lit up space as hundreds of weapons discharged at once. The Altarian ships fired. Purple plasma bolts. The Vegan cruisers unleashed waves of antimatter torpedoes. The Proximan dreadnoughts deployed their famous singularity weapons, miniature black holes that tore through space itself. For a moment, it looked like the Alliance might win. The space around the Zilonian ships filled with explosions and energy discharges. Then the Zilonian shields activated. The deadly barrage of Alliance weapons simply stopped. Energy beams bent around the enemy ships. Antimatter torpedoes detonated, harmlessly against invisible barriers. Even the singularity weapons were somehow deflected, their black holes evaporating before they could reach their targets. Impossible, breathed Lisa. Their shields are absorbing everything. The Zilonian fleet returned fire. Red beams of light shot from their weapons, and wherever they touched, Alliance ships died. The beams cut through shields like they weren't there, slicing ships in half or causing them to explode from within. The Altarian destroyer Starfire is gone, reported Sam. The Vegan cruiser Thunderstrike just exploded. We're losing ships fast. Jack watched in horror as the pride of the Alliance fleet was torn apart. Ships that had taken centuries to build, that represented the peak of their civilization's technology, were being destroyed like toys. Captain, said Alice Brown, her voice shaking. I'm picking up distress calls from every sector. The fleet is collapsing. Maintain position, Jack ordered, though his heart was racing. We follow our orders. But the battle was turning into a slaughter. The Zilonian ships advanced slowly, methodically destroying everything in their path. Their weapons seemed unstoppable, their shields impenetrable. Admiral Sullivan's command ship, the massive Proximan dreadnought Cosmic Dawn, took a direct hit. The ship shuddered, its shields flickering. "This is Admiral Sullivan to all ships." Her voice came through the static. "Fall back. Repeat. All ships fall back to secondary positions." The surviving Alliance ships began to retreat, but the Zilonians pursued them relentlessly. More ships exploded, their crews dying in the cold vacuum of space. "Captain," called Mike Davis from engineering, "I've been analyzing their weapons fire. There's something strange about it." "What do you mean?" "The energy signature doesn't match anything in our database, but I've been working on our fusion drive, trying to increase output, and I noticed something. If we overload the containment field and channel the excess energy through the deflector array—" "English, Mike." "I think I can turn our ship into a giant energy weapon, sir. It's crazy, but it might work." Jack considered this. Around them, the Alliance fleet was being destroyed. They had to do something. "How long do you need?" 10 minutes to reconfigure the systems. "But Captain, I can't guarantee the ship will survive. The stress on our hull could tear us apart." "Sir," interrupted Sam, "the decimator is changing course. It's heading straight for Earth." Jack's blood ran cold. If the Zilonian flagship reached Earth— "Time to Earth at their current speed?" he asked. 40 minutes, sir." Jack looked around his bridge. His crew stared back at him, waiting for orders. They were scared. He could see it in their eyes. But they were also determined. "Mike, start your modifications. Everyone else prepare for combat." "Captain," said Ryan quietly, "we're just one ship, a ship everyone laughs at. What can we do?" Jack turned to his old friend. "Sometimes being underestimated is the greatest advantage. They don't see us as a threat. They're ignoring us. That gives us one chance, one shot to make a difference." As the Alliance fleet continued to crumble around them, the Victory's crew worked frantically. Mike and his engineering team rerouted power systems, overloading circuits and pushing their equipment beyond all safety limits. Lisa recalibrated the deflector array, her fingers flying over her console. "Captain, I think I understand their shield technology now. It uses quantum entanglement to create a perfect defense, but quantum systems are delicate. If we can disrupt the entanglement—" "Can you do it?" "With Mike's modifications, maybe. The fusion overload should create a burst of tachyon particles, if we can focus them at the right frequency." "Sir," reported Pete, "I've got a lock on the decimator, but our railguns won't even scratch their shields." "We're not using railguns," Jack said. "We're using the whole ship." The Victory began to move, its engines pushing it forward through the debris field of destroyed Alliance vessels. They passed the burning hulk of an Altarian destroyer, its crew long dead. They flew by the shattered remains of a Vegan cruiser, its antimatter cores still detonating in silent explosions. "The decimator has noticed us," said Sam. "They're hailing." On screen, the main display filled with the image of a Zilonian commander. The alien was tall and thin, its body covered in crystalline armor. Its face was angular and cruel, with 6 red eyes that stared at Jack with contempt. "I am Commander Zarthok of the Zilonian Empire," the alien said, its voice cold and precise. "You pilot a primitive vessel, human. Why do you approach? Do you wish to surrender?" "I'm Captain Jack Harrison of Earth," Jack replied. "And no, we're not surrendering." Zarthok's eyes narrowed. "Your fleet is destroyed. Your technology is worthless. What can one small ship do against the might of the Empire? You'd be surprised." The alien made a sound that might have been laughter. "You humans are amusing. Very well. I will destroy your ship last, so you can watch as we reduce your world to ashes." The communication ended. "Charming fellow," muttered Ryan. "Mike, how are those modifications coming?" Jack called. "Almost ready, Captain. Just need 2 more minutes. Helm, increase speed. Take us right at them." The Victory accelerated, its old fusion engines straining. The massive decimator grew larger on their screen, its weapons tracking their approach. "They're targeting us," reported Pete. "Multiple weapon locks detected." "Lisa, are you ready?" "Deflector array reconfigured. When Mike gives the signal, I can channel the fusion overload into a focused tachyon beam." "Captain," said Alice, "I'm picking up a transmission from Admiral Sullivan. She's ordering us to break off our attack." Jack hesitated for a moment, then he made his decision. "Communications malfunction," he said. "We didn't receive that order." Alice looked at him, then nodded. "Yes, sir. Complete communications failure." The decimator's weapons began to glow. In seconds, those terrible red beams would fire, and the Victory would join the rest of the destroyed fleet. "Mike?" Jack called. "Almost there. The containment field is at 200%, 250, 300. Captain, if we push it any further..." "Do it! 400%! Fusion core is going critical. You've got maybe 30 seconds. Before we explode." "Lisa, now!" Dr. Lisa Morgan's hands flew over her console. The Victory's deflector dish began to glow brighter and brighter, until it outshone the stars themselves. "Tachyon stream focused and ready." "Target their shield generators," Jack ordered. "Fire." The Victory unleashed its improvised weapon. A beam of pure energy, laced with tachyon particles, shot from the deflector array. It struck the decimator's shields. And for a moment, nothing happened. The Zolonian ship's weapons prepared to fire. Jack could see the energy building, ready to vaporize his ship and crew. Then suddenly the decimator's shields flickered. "It's working!" shouted Lisa. "The quantum entanglement is destabilizing." The shields flashed once, twice, and then collapsed entirely. For the first time in recorded history, a Zolonian dreadnought was vulnerable. The bridge of the Victory fell silent. Everyone stared at the main screen, unable to believe what they were seeing. The mighty decimator, the terror of the galaxy, sat defenseless in space. "Their shields are completely down," whispered Lisa, checking her instruments again. "I don't understand how, but the quantum cascade is spreading through their entire system." "Captain!" shouted Mike from engineering. "Our fusion core is going critical. We've got maybe 15 seconds before it overloads." Jack didn't hesitate. "Pete, all weapons, fire everything we've got." The Victory's railguns spoke, sending streams of metal projectiles toward the decimator. Without shields, the primitive weapons suddenly became deadly. The projectiles punched through the Zolonian ship's hull, creating explosions along its surface. "Direct hits," Pete reported. "We're actually hurting them." But the decimator was far from defeated. Its weapons systems came online. Red energy building. In its massive guns, "They're returning fire," warned Ryan. "Evasive maneuvers," Jack ordered. "Hard to starboard." The Victory's helmsman, Lieutenant Dan Cooper, threw the ship into a sharp turn. The Zolonian energy beams missed by meters, close enough that the bridge lights flickered from the electromagnetic interference. "Mike, shut down that fusion overload." "Before we explode. Working on it." "But Captain, I'm seeing something strange." "The tachyon burst didn't just affect the decimator. Look at the other Zolonian ships." Jack looked at the tactical display. All across the battlefield, Zolonian vessels were experiencing shield failures. One by one, their perfect defenses were collapsing. "It's a chain reaction," Lisa said excitedly. "Their shields are all connected through quantum entanglement. When we disrupted one, we disrupted them all." Suddenly, Admiral Sullivan's voice burst through the communications system. "All Alliance ships, the enemy shields are down. Attack! Attack now!" The surviving Alliance vessels, seeing their chance, turned and fired. Ships that had been retreating moments ago now poured fire into the suddenly vulnerable Zolonian fleet. "Sir," said Sam, "I'm picking up emergency transmissions from the Zolonian ships. They're panicking. They don't understand what's happening to their shields." The Victory shook as another near miss from the decimator scorched their hull. "Captain, fusion core stabilized," reported Mike. "But our deflector array is burned out. We can't do that trick again." "Once was enough," Jack said. "Pete, keep firing. Target their weapon systems." The battle had transformed. Without their invincible shields, the Zolonian ships were taking damage. Alliance weapons that had been useless before now tore into enemy hulls. Explosions bloomed across the Zilonian formation. But the Empire's forces were still dangerous. Their weapons continued to destroy Alliance ships, and they outnumbered the surviving defenders. "The Decimator is changing course," reported Dan Cooper. "They're trying to ram us." Jack could see it on the screen. The massive Zilonian flagship was accelerating directly toward them. Even damaged, the ship was so large that a collision would vaporize the Victory. "Full reverse," Jack ordered. "Get us out of here." "Engines not responding fast enough," Dan replied, sweat running down his face. "They'll hit us in 30 seconds. Jack's mind raced. They'd given the Alliance a fighting chance, but now they were about to be crushed by the very ship they'd wounded. "Captain," said Lisa suddenly, "the Decimator's main reactor is exposed. Our railguns damaged their hull right above it. If we could hit it directly, the whole ship would explode," finished Pete. "But we'd need to be incredibly close for that kind of accuracy." Jack made his decision. "All hands, this is the captain. Prepare for ramming speed." "Sir?" Ryan looked at him in shock. "We're not running. Dan, full power to engines. Take us straight at them." "But Captain, that's an order." The Victory's engines roared to life, pushing the ship forward instead of away. The two vessels raced toward each other, the distance closing rapidly. "Pete, can you hit their reactor?" "Not at this speed, sir. I'd need a stable platform." "Then we'll give you one." "Dan, at the last second, full stop and rotate 90 degrees. Pete, you'll have one shot." The crew worked in perfect coordination. The Decimator grew larger and larger on their screen, its damaged hull clearly visible. 20 seconds to impact," called Dan. "All hands, brace for emergency maneuvers," announced Alice over the ship's communications. 10 seconds. Jack gripped his command chair. Everything depended on the next few moments. 5 seconds. "Now, Dan." The Victory's engines reversed thrust while the maneuvering thrusters fired. The ship spun in space, its momentum carrying it sideways past the Decimator. For a brief moment, the two ships were parallel, separated by less than 100 meters. "Firing!" Pete shouted. The Victory's railguns spoke one last time. Streams of metal projectiles shot across the gap, striking the exposed reactor housing of the Decimator. For a heartbeat, nothing happened. Then the Zilonian flagship exploded. The blast was tremendous. A sphere of white light expanded from the Decimator's core, consuming the entire ship. The Victory was caught in the shockwave, tumbling end over end through space. "Hull breach on deck 7, someone shouted. "Emergency force fields holding. Inertial dampeners are offline." Jack held on as his ship was tossed like a leaf in a hurricane. Sparks flew from damaged consoles. The lights flickered and went out, replaced by the red glow of emergency power. Finally, after what seemed like hours but was only seconds, the Victory stabilized. "Damage report," Jack called out, picking himself up from the floor. "Hull damage on multiple decks," reported Alice. "But we're still in one piece." The Decimator, Pete checked his scanners. "Gone, sir. Completely destroyed." Jack looked at the tactical display. The destruction of their flagship had thrown the Zilonian fleet into chaos. Some ships were retreating, others were firing wildly at anything that moved. Without their coordinated command structure, the Empire's forces were falling apart. "Sir," said Sam, his voice filled with awe. "Listen to this." He put the Alliance communications on speaker. Dozens of voices filled the bridge, all talking at once. "Did you see that? The Earth ship destroyed the Decimator. Their shields are still down. Press the attack. Who would have thought the primitives would save us all?" Admiral Sullivan's voice cut through the chatter. "This is Fleet Command. All ships form up on the Victory. Repeat, form up on the Earth vessel and continue the assault." Jack could hardly believe what he was hearing. The Victory, the ship everyone had laughed at, was now leading the Alliance fleet. "Incoming transmission from Commander Zarthok," reported Sam. "He survived the explosion. He's on one of their cruisers. Put him through." The Zilonian commander appeared on screen, his crystalline armor cracked and scorched. His 6 eyes blazed with fury. "You," he snarled. "You destroyed our finest ship. How? Your technology is primitive. Your weapons are ancient. This is impossible." Jack stood up straight despite his exhaustion. You made the same mistake everyone else did. You assumed primitive meant helpless. You thought that because our technology was simple, our thinking was too. This isn't over, human. The Empire will send more ships, larger fleets. We will crush your world and— No, Jack interrupted. You won't. Because now we know your weakness. Your perfect shields, your invincible ships. They're all connected. One flaw brings down your entire system, and we found it. Sarthok's eyes widened as he realized the implications. That's right, Jack continued. Every species in the Alliance now knows how to defeat you. Your empire built its strength on technology you thought was perfect. But perfection is brittle. It took humans, with our messy, improvised, primitive solutions, to show everyone the crack in your armor. The transmission cut off abruptly. On the tactical display, the remaining Zilonian ships were retreating, jumping into hyperspace to escape. They're running, said Ryan in disbelief. The Zilonian Empire is running from us. The bridge erupted in cheers. Crew members hugged each other, tears of relief streaming down their faces. They had done it. They had saved Earth, saved the Alliance, and changed the course of the war. Captain, said Pete with a grin, I don't think anyone's going to laugh at our railguns anymore. Jack smiled back, but his eyes remained on the tactical display. The immediate threat was over, but he knew this was just the beginning. The Empire would return, and the galaxy would never be the same. Sir, said Sam, I'm receiving dozens of messages from Alliance ships. They all want to know how we did it. Tell them it was a team effort, Jack said. And Sam, make sure they know that sometimes the most primitive solution is the best one. As the Victory limped back toward the Alliance fleet, surrounded by the grateful ships of a dozen species, Jack reflected on what had just happened. Earth's Laughingstock prototype hadn't just survived its first battle, it had turned the tide of the war. Not bad for a ship held together with steel and determination. 2 weeks passed after the battle. The Victory sat in the main repair dock of Alliance Station Prime, surrounded by repair crews from a dozen different worlds. Workers crawled over its hull, patching holes and replacing damaged systems. Jack stood in the observation lounge watching the repairs through a large window. His left arm was in a sling from an injury during the battle, but he refused to leave his ship. Captain Harrison? Jack turned to see Ambassador Zixtar floating toward him. In his water-filled environment suit, the Aquilonian's tentacles moved nervously. Ambassador? Jack nodded. Come to inspect our primitive ship again? The alien's large eyes looked down. I came to apologize. We were wrong about your vessel. Wrong about humanity. You weren't the only ones, Jack said. Everyone thought we were a joke. But you saved us all. How did you know? How did you see what our best scientists missed? Jack thought for a moment. You know what the difference is between your technology and ours? Yours is simpler? No. Yours is perfect. Too perfect. You've been traveling space for thousands of years. Your shields worked flawlessly, so you never questioned them. You never had to improvise or make do with less. Zixtar's tentacles curled in what Jack had learned was curiosity. And humans? Humans? We're used to things breaking. We're used to having to fix problems with whatever we have on hand. When something doesn't work, we take it apart, see how it works, and find another way. The quantum cascade, the ambassador said. Our shields were all connected. We thought that made them stronger. It did. But it also made them vulnerable. One failure brought down the whole system. Before Zixtar could respond, alarms began, sounding throughout the station. Alert! Alert! Massive Zilonian fleet detected approaching Alliance space. All personnel to battle stations. Jack ran to the nearest communication panel. This is Captain Harrison. What's the situation? Admiral Sullivan's face appeared on the screen. Jack, they're back, 500 ships this time. The Empire's sending their entire core fleet. How long until they arrive? 6 hours, and Jack, they've modified their shields. Our scans show they're no longer using quantum entanglement. Jack's heart sank. Their one advantage was gone. Get to the command center, Sullivan continued. We need to plan our defense. The command center was chaos. Representatives from every Alliance world were arguing, pointing at tactical displays, shouting over each other. We should evacuate the core worlds. No, we make our stand here. Without the shield vulnerability, we can't win. Jack pushed through the crowd to where Admiral Sullivan stood with the other military commanders. Jack, she said. Good. You're here. The Zolonians learned from their defeat. Their new shields operate independently. Our tachyon trick won't work again. What about conventional weapons? Still useless. They've actually improved their defenses. Nothing we have can penetrate them. A hologram of the approaching fleet appeared in the center of the room. Hundreds of massive ships, led by 3 vessels even larger than the destroyed Decimator. Those are Annihilator-class dreadnoughts, explained Commander Kretok. The Empire's most powerful warships. Each one can destroy a planet. We need a new strategy, said Jack. Lisa, what have you learned about their technology, Dr. Lisa? Morgan stepped forward, data tablets in her hands. Their new shields are impressive. Each ship generates its own protective field. But I've noticed something. What? The power requirements are enormous. Each ship needs to generate the energy equivalent of a small star. They're using quantum reactors to do it. So? Quantum reactors are incredibly efficient, but they're also delicate. They require perfect balance. Any disruption to that balance could cause a cascade failure in the reactor itself, finished Jack. Not in the shields, but in their power source. Exactly. But we'd need to get inside their shields to target the reactors. The room fell silent. Everyone knew that was impossible. Unless, said Mike Davis, who had been listening quietly, unless we don't try to break their shields at all. What do you mean? Asked Admiral Sullivan. Mike stepped forward. I've been studying their shield frequency modulations. The shields are designed to stop energy and projectiles, but what if we sent something else? Like what? Information. A computer virus. The shields are controlled by computer systems. If we could infect those systems, their shields would fail from the inside, Jack completed. But how do we get a virus past their defenses? We broadcast it, said Sam Peterson, hidden in regular communication signals. The Zolonians monitor our communications. They'd receive it without realizing it. Lisa's eyes lit up. And I can design the virus. Their computer architecture is different from ours, but I've studied captured Zolonian tech. I know how their systems work. You have 4 hours, said Admiral Sullivan. Make it count. The Victory's crew worked frantically. Lisa wrote code faster than she ever had before, creating a virus designed specifically for Zolonian computer systems. Sam worked on the transmission system, finding ways to hide the malicious code inside normal-looking messages. Mike supervised the installation of new broadcasting equipment on every Alliance ship. If this plan worked, they needed every vessel to transmit the virus simultaneously. 2 hours until enemy arrival, announced the station's computer. Almost done, Lisa muttered, her fingers flying over her keyboard. The virus is designed to be dormant at first. It'll spread through their systems before activating. What happens when it activates? Asked Jack. It targets their reactor control systems, makes tiny adjustments to the quantum field balance. The Zolonians won't notice until it's too late. Captain, interrupted Pete Johnson, I've got an idea for the weapon systems. If their shields do fail, we'll only have seconds to attack. Our railguns are too slow. What do you suggest? Mining charges. We load our cargo bays with mining explosives, fly close to their ships when the shields drop and detonate. Jack stared at him. That's suicide. Not if we use remote-controlled cargo pods. We launch them before the shields. Fail. Let them drift near the enemy ships. When the moment comes, we have dozens of bombs already in position, Jack finished. Do it. 1 hour until enemy arrival. The Alliance fleet formed up in defensive positions. The Victory took point, its crew making final preparations. Virus upload complete, reported Lisa. All ships have the code. Broadcasting systems online, added Sam. We're ready to transmit. Jack looked at his crew. These people had started as the laughingstock of the galaxy. Now they were its last hope. Zolonian fleet dropping out of hyperspace, called out the tactical officer. The enemy ships appeared, their dark hulls blotting out the stars. 3 massive Annihilator dreadnoughts led hundreds of smaller vessels. Their weapons began to glow. "This is Supreme Commander Vextor of the Zolonian Empire." A harsh voice filled the communication channels. "You have one chance to surrender. Your trick with our shields won't work again. Lay down your weapons or be destroyed." Admiral Sullivan looked at Jack. He nodded. "All ships," Sullivan commanded. "Begin Operation Trojan. Transmit the virus." Across the Alliance fleet, communication arrays lit up. The virus, hidden in thousands of seemingly harmless messages, beamed toward the Zolonian ships. "Enemy is charging weapons," reported the tactical officer. "They'll fire in 30 seconds. "Come on," whispered Lisa, watching her screens. "Take the bait." The Zolonian ships received the transmissions. Their computers automatically processed the incoming data, just as the Alliance had hoped. The virus slipped past their security protocols, spreading from ship to ship. 20 seconds until enemy weapons fire. "It's working," Lisa said excitedly. "The virus is propagating through their fleet. It's reached 40% penetration. 50%. 60. 10 seconds. Activating virus. Now." For a moment, nothing happened. The Zolonian weapons continued to charge, their shields holding steady. Then deep inside each enemy ship, quantum reactors began to fluctuate. The careful balance that kept them stable shifted by tiny fractions. Control systems tried to compensate but found their commands altered by the virus. The first explosion came from a Zolonian cruiser. Its reactor went critical, the ship vanishing in a ball of plasma. Then another ship exploded, and another. "Their shields are failing," someone shouted. Jack leaned forward. "All ships, launch cargo pods. Pete, now!" The Victory and its sister ships released dozens of cargo pods filled with mining charges. The small pods drifted toward the Zolonian fleet, unnoticed in the chaos. The Annihilator dreadnoughts' shields flickered and died. For the first time, the Empire's mightiest warships were vulnerable. "Detonate the charges," Jack ordered. Explosions ripped through the Zolonian fleet. The mining charges, positioned perfectly by Pete's plan, tore into unprotected hulls. Ships that had seemed invincible moments ago broke apart under the assault. Supreme Commander Vextor's face appeared on screen, his expression one of shock and rage. "Impossible. Our systems were perfect, our technology supreme." "That was your mistake," Jack replied. "You relied too much on technology, not enough on thinking. Humans may be primitive, but we're creative. We adapt. We find ways to win." The 3 Annihilator dreadnoughts were burning, their massive hulls cracked open by the mining charges. The rest of the Zolonian fleet was in full retreat, jumping to hyperspace to escape destruction. "They're running again," said Ryan. "I don't think they'll be back soon." The command center erupted in celebration. Aliens of all species cheered, hugged, and congratulated each other. They had done the impossible, defeated the Zolonian Empire not once, but twice. Ambassador Zixtar floated over to Jack. "Captain, I believe I owe you another apology, and perhaps a request." "What kind of request?" "The Alliance needs to learn from humanity. Your approach to problem solving, your creativity, your willingness to take risks. Will Earth help us?" Jack smiled. "A few weeks ago, you called us primitives, said we should stick to mining. I was a fool. Your primitive thinking saved us all. Twice." "Then yes, Ambassador. Earth will help, but on one condition." "Name it." "No more laughing at railguns." The Ambassador's tentacles rippled in what Jack now knew was laughter. But this time, it was laughter of joy, not mockery. "Agreed, Captain. I think we've all learned that lesson." 1 year later, Jack stood on the bridge of the Victory, now docked at Earth's new orbital shipyard. Through the viewports, he could see a dozen ships under construction, each one incorporating lessons learned from humanity's first battle. "Captain, you have visitors," announced Alice Brown, now wearing commander's insignia. The doors opened, and a group of alien dignitaries entered. Ambassador Zixtar led them, followed by representatives from every major alliance world. "Captain Harrison," Zixtar said formally, "the Galactic Council has made its decision." Jack straightened his uniform. He'd been expecting this meeting. "The Victory is to be retired from active service," the ambassador continued, "but not scrapped. It will become a museum ship, permanently stationed here at Earth. A monument to the day everything changed." "I understand," Jack said. "She served her purpose." "More than that," said the crystalline form of Representative Kreetok. "The Victory has become a symbol. Every new Alliance ship now includes human crew members. Your approach to problem-solving has revolutionized our fleet." A young Altarian officer stepped forward. "Captain, I'm Lieutenant Velnor. I'll be commanding one of the new hybrid warships. Half our systems are based on human designs. Manual overrides, backup systems, redundancies. Things we once mocked as primitive." "And the weapons?" Jack asked. Velnor smiled, an expression the Altarians had learned from humans. "Railguns are now standard on all Alliance vessels. Upgraded versions, of course, but the principle remains. Simple, reliable, effective." Dr. Lisa Morgan entered the bridge, followed by Mike Davis. Both wore new insignia showing their positions in the Alliance Technology Council. "Jack, we've just received word from the frontier," Lisa said. "The Zolonian Empire has agreed to peace talks. They're actually afraid of us now." "Afraid of humans?" Jack asked. "Afraid of human thinking," she corrected. "Our virus didn't just damage their ships, it damaged their confidence. For the first time in their history, they faced an enemy that could outthink them." Mike added, "They've also discovered that other species are starting to think like humans. The Alliance isn't just copying our technology, they're copying our approach. Improvisation, adaptation, making do with what you have." Sam Peterson, now head of Alliance Communications, joined the group. "The peace talks begin next month. The Zolonians have one condition. They want human negotiators present. They say we're the only ones who might surprise them." Jack looked around at his former crew, now scattered across important positions throughout the Alliance. "Remember when they laughed at us? Called us primitives playing with toys?" "They're not laughing now," said Pete Johnson, wearing the insignia of the Alliance Weapons Development Division. "My department has a waiting list of species wanting to learn human combat tactics." Ryan Torres, Jack's old friend and now Admiral of Earth's growing fleet, clapped him on the shoulder. "The Victory may be retiring, but her legacy is just beginning. Every ship we build, every crew we train carries the lesson she taught us." "And what lesson is that?" asked Ambassador Zixtar. Jack walked to the command chair, running his hand over its worn surface. "That sometimes the best solution isn't the most advanced one. Sometimes it's the simplest one that no one else thought of. That experience and creativity can overcome any technological advantage." The ceremony began an hour later. Thousands gathered to watch as the Victory was officially decommissioned. The small ship that had saved the galaxy sat in her berth, hull-scarred but proud. Admiral Sullivan spoke to the assembled crowd. "1 year ago, this ship was a joke. Earth's primitive attempt to join the galactic community. No one believed it. Could make a difference." She paused, looking at the Victory. "But her crew proved that courage and cleverness matter more than advanced technology. They showed us that humans bring something unique to space. The ability to see problems differently. To find solutions where others see only defeat." Jack stood with his crew as the Victory's flag was lowered for the last time. Around them, representatives from dozens of worlds watched in respectful silence. "The Victory's active service is ended," Sullivan continued, "but her mission continues. Human instructors now serve on every Alliance training ship. Human engineers work in every shipyard. Human tactical officers serve on the bridges of our finest vessels." She turned to Jack. "Captain Harrison, your ship changed history, not through superior firepower or advanced technology, but through the one thing no enemy can defend against: human ingenuity." As the ceremony ended, Jack found himself alone on the Victory's bridge one last time. He sat in the command chair, looking at the familiar consoles, the view screen where they'd faced impossible odds. Not bad for a primitive ship, he said quietly. Sir? Jack turned to see a young ensign standing in the doorway. The boy couldn't have been more than 20, fresh out of the academy. Sorry to interrupt, Captain. I'm Ensign Tim Walker. I've been assigned to the new ship, the Endeavor. I wanted to see the Victory before starting my assignment. Come in, Jack said. Look around. The ensign walked slowly across the bridge, eyes wide with awe. This is where it happened, where you figured out how to beat the Zolonians. This is where a crew of humans did what humans do best, Jack corrected. We adapted. We improvised. We refused to give up. Sir, do you think we'll ever face another threat like the Empire? Jack stood up, looking out at the stars. Probably. The galaxy is full of dangers we haven't met yet. But that's why ships like the Endeavor are being built. That's why humans are spread throughout the fleet now. To fight, to think, to question, to find solutions no one else can see. Jack turned to the young man. Remember, Ensign Walker, our greatest weapon isn't our technology. It's our ability to look at a problem and ask, what if we tried this instead? The ensign straightened. I'll remember, sir. As they left the Victory for the last time, Jack saw the future of the Alliance fleet taking shape in the shipyard. New vessels that combined the best of alien technology with human innovation. Ships with quantum drives and railguns, perfect shields and manual overrides, advanced computers and simple backup systems. But more importantly, he saw the crews. Humans and aliens working together, learning from each other. The laughter he heard now wasn't mockery. It was the sound of friendship, of respect earned in battle. Captain Harrison? Jack turned to find a Zolonian standing before him. The alien wore diplomatic robes rather than armor. I am Ambassador Zarvek of the Zolonian Empire, the alien said. I wanted to meet you before the peace talks begin. Ambassador, Jack nodded carefully. The last Zolonian he'd met had tried to destroy Earth. I studied the battle recordings, Zarvek continued. Both battles. My people have spent considerable time trying to understand what happened, and we built our empire on technological superiority. We never questioned our methods because they always worked, until we met humans. The Zolonian paused. You forced us to think differently, to question our assumptions. In defeating us, you may have saved us from eventual stagnation. That's an interesting perspective, Jack said. The Empire wishes to join the Alliance, Zarvek announced. Not as conquerors, but as members. We have much to learn from humanity. Jack extended his hand, a human gesture the Zolonian had clearly studied, as he reached out to shake it carefully. Welcome to the Alliance, Jack said, but I should warn you, we still use railguns. For the first time in recorded history, a Zolonian laughed with genuine humor. After what your railguns did to our fleet, Captain, I think we'll be ordering some for ourselves. As the ceremony ended and the crowd dispersed, Jack took one last look at the Victory, the ship that everyone had laughed at, the primitive prototype that changed the galaxy. In the distance, the new generation of ships prepared for launch. Each one carried the Victory's legacy, the proof that sometimes the simplest solution is the best one, that determination matters, more than advanced technology, and that humans, with all their primitive stubbornness, had earned their place among the stars. The mockery had turned to respect. The Laughingstock had become a legend. And somewhere in the galaxy, other species were learning the most important lesson of all. Never underestimate human ingenuity. The Victory might be retired, but her spirit lived on in every ship that launched from Earth's shipyards. In every crew that learned to think like humans. In every problem solved with creativity instead of technology. Jack smiled as he walked away. Not bad for a ship held together with steel and determination. Not bad at all.